Micro, small and medium enterprises are seen as engine of economic growth of any nation, and their significant contributions to development are not in doubt. The government at all levels. Now, little wonder President Tinubu's administration has recognized the place of MSMEs as a driver to rejig and transform the economic sector. This has been made possible by energizing MSMEs with 125 billion naira, with 50 billion naira targeted at 1,300 nano businesses in the 774 local government areas in the country, with 50,000 naira each aimed at further driving financial inclusion by unbundling beneficiaries into the formal banking sector. Already, machineries have been put in motion for ease of doing business, with the signing of 4 executive orders to address unfriendly fiscal policies and multiple taxation that stifles the business environment and create a conducive environment to attract business to the country and claim its spot on the global market. Now, this is a vision that can only be achieved through a thriving and vibrant MSMEs. How can this encourage entrepreneurship and create jobs to cushion the impact of the fuel subsidy removal? To address these pertinent questions, I'll be joined by my guests, Evans Monday, Director, Enterprise Development and Promotions, Medan, and Collins Nwosu, Trade Ambassador to the International Trade Facilitation Association. This is Weekend File. I am Jummai Yusuf. First, let's get the news. Promoting public safety and internal security are major priorities of the federal government, and the Nigeria Police Force must not compromise this mandate. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this at the passing out parade of the 5th regular cadet course of the Nigeria Police Academy, Wudil, Kano State. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
This parade signifies the pipping and commissioning of 169 set of the 5th regular cadets of the Nigeria Police Academy, Wudil, Kano State, with the composition of 139 males and 30 female cadets. ASP Israel Daud of Law Department with CGPA 4.78 emerged the best graduating cadet, smiling home with different awards. Beyond the euphoria of a successful end for an academic journey, being just to all, promoting national security and shunning corruption should be seen as core values.
Our dear cadets, I share in your enthusiasm to be commissioned into the Nigerian Police Force, and I assure you of the government's commitment to providing you with the avenue to serve the nation without sacrificing your dignity. Therefore, the task of handling these issues requires a set of well-trained officers with the right orientation, discipline, initiative, patriotism, and sound operational capacity. I am confident in the quality of training you have received over the past 5 years in this academy, and I believe you are adequately prepared to serve this country. May you all embark on this journey with courage and determination.
Interaction with the public is a perception shaper, which gives opportunity for the police to develop more confidence on the people, the Vice President Shettima advised.
We must treat all citizens fairly and uphold their human rights, regardless of background. Our actions must exemplify the highest ethical standards as we safeguard the rule of law. Together we embody the principles that define a trusted and responsible police force.
With the commitment and continuous support of the federal government of Nigeria, the Academy is able to vigorously pursue policies that are purposely focused in transforming the Academy as one of the best police training institutions that takes the lead in innovative practices, research, training, modern policy, and quality education.
The 169 cadets pulled into the Nigerian police is part of efforts to reposition the force for service delivery. From the Police Academy in Wudil, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
The Nigerian Army says it is ready to absorb medical doctors who are returning to the country from their various bases abroad in its hospitals. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja gave the assurance when he received management of Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission, NITCAM. Lieutenant General Lagbaja noted that the Army will collaborate with NIDCOM's advocacy of bringing back home the best brains from the diaspora to help develop the health sector in the country. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the chairman NIDCOM Abike Dabiri Erewa, while showcasing the activities of the commission and areas of collaboration, urged the Army chief not to rest on its oars in the discharge of their duties as Nigerians appreciate their sacrifice. Now, despite the growing recognition of the relevance of green skills available, evidence shows a shortage of such skills among young people. The skills gap represents an obstacle for young people as the world shifts towards a green economy. In this report, Olainka Ojo takes a look at what young Nigerians say must be done to address this in line with the theme of the 2023 International Youth Day celebration, Green Skills for Youth Towards a Sustainable World.
The United Nations General Assembly endorsed the recommendation by the World Conference of Ministers of Youths at Lisbon, where 12th August was declared International Youth Day. And in the last 2 decades, themes for the celebration focused on mental health, intergenerational solidarity, safer spaces for youths, and civic engagement. Today, the world is embarking on a green transition, and the shift towards an environmentally sustainable and climate-friendly world is critical not only in response to the global climate crisis, but also for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
It is time, therefore, for all of us here in this room to get united for action.
Stakeholders are concerned and do not want more than 60% of young people to lack skills required to thrive in the green economy by 2030.
Investing in youth education, skills development, and meaningful engagement is imperative.
Please jettison the idea of illegal migration. Look inwards. The solution to your challenges are here in Nigeria.
A successful transition towards a greener world that depends on the development of green skills that will support a sustainable and resource-efficient society is the focus now.
We as young people understand these problems better because these problems actually impact us. Our futures are at stake here. We're also poised with the sustainability eco-skills and technology to solve these problems.
We have about 8.4 million jobs that these green skills will create. Digitalize most of the things that we do.
Since young people must be put at the center of creating positive change in the world, here is what Nigerian youths are advocating for.
Let's also give youth an opportunity to lead and thrive.
There's also need to also impact young people out there with relevant, transferable, whether hard and soft skills.
Providing inclusive education, access to public building, including persons with disability in decision and government-making tables.
And now, the world has just 7 years left to make the SDGs a reality. Olainka Ojo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, there's still hope in sight for Nigerian youth as a non-governmental organization, Niola Foundation, is creating more than 10,000 jobs opportunities. Co-founder of the NGO, Sheyi Tinubu, at an event to commemorate the 2023 International Youth Day, says they will be achieved through a partnership with well-meaning firms within and outside Nigeria. Saliu Ganara reports.
Medical outreach organized in Abuja as part of activities to mark the International Youth Day was equally an opportunity for Sheyi Tinubu to reveal his commitment towards transforming the lives of young individuals and aspiring entrepreneurs across the country. The job opportunities, he said, will be created through upskilling of Nigerians with tools, setting up exchange programs and summits within and outside Africa.
We will continue to do our best. I believe this outreach is something that's going to be done around the whole state, around the whole country, around all 36, in partnership with MedPlus.
This free medical outreach is to attend to people that generally can afford some of this medication.
I thank you. You people should help me thank him. I'm so happy. He made my son live. He made my son live today. If not him, I will lose my baby.
Last time I went to the hospital, about 30-something thousand. You can see my hand, I can read, I can see far. they just give it to me free.
So we also want to announce that they could go to 100jobs.ng to submit their CVs, upload their CVs, and the foundation, in partnership with 1000 Job Africa, will reach out to them based on the qualifications.
The 2023 International Youth Days theme, Green Skills for Youth Towards a Sustainable World, the organizers say is in line with the foundation's goals. In Abuja, Saliu Gwanara, NTA News.
Moving on, respect for fundamental rights of all citizens of state parties and the African Continental Free Trade Agreement must be strictly observed for the success of the project. Participants at the just concluded African Bar Association conference canvassed this point of view in Pretoria, South Africa. Dele Atumbi of our Judiciary's Desk reports.
Law plays a pivotal role in the regulation of human interactions in order to ensure peaceful coexistence in this society. The observance of the rights of the people who will be interfacing in the course of the implementation of the African Single Market reverberates at the 2023 African Bar Association Conference. Participants canvass strong respect for the fundamental rights of all the people that will be participating in the project. The conference places premium on observance of the rights of the entire workforce in the continental single market. Respect for the fundamental rights of all parties in the African Continental Free Trade Agreement will place the project on a better pedestal in the world market.
For the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement to work, there has to be a conducive condition for freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly.
And talking about military interventions and coups and its effect on after, business is better done in a secure, sedate environment. And definitely coups are an antidote to security. When a military government takes place, what happens first of all is that it could probably disclaim all the agreements the previous government has entered into.
The conference is of the view that African Union should evolve continental airline to facilitate transportation among state parties. The participants call for political will to mainstream the African continental single market and currency. From Pretoria, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
And in trying to put a smile on the faces of the 2022 flood disaster victims in Gombe State, the federal government has sent in relief package worth millions of naira for onward distribution to them. This is to mitigate the current economic challenges the country is passing through. Zara Umar Adamu reports that the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA flagged off the distribution of the food relief package in Malam Sidi, Kwame local government area of Gombe State.
Life is still difficult for 13,000 victims of last year's flood disasters in Gombe State. The relief package being distributed by National Emergency Management Agency NEMA, which include assorted food items, livelihood support tools, and farming inputs, therefore, wouldn't have come at a better time.
I have harvested soya beans and beans. In fact, I don't have the herbicide now. I'm planning how to get it, but thank God now I have gotten it easily.
I'm very pleased and happy with the relief item I've gotten. The distribution of the relief package is in groups. While some receive assorted foodstuff and household materials, others receive farming inputs to help them engage in dry season farming and recover from their losses.
Already all the beneficiaries have their slips, so we'll ensure that nobody will come in except the person having that slip. That slip will be verified so that we don't get forged slip.
The idea is to be able to go out and reach out to all the local governments at the same time.
Relevant stakeholders in Gombe State have remained on the alert for possible recurrence of any flood disaster this year. Sarah Omar Adam, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu is profoundly saddened by the news of the passing of Nigeria's ambassador to France, Kayode Laro. In a statement by his special advisor, Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, the president extends his deepest condolences to the ambassador's family, the diplomatic community, and the government and people of Kwara State. President Tinubu recognizes Ambassador Laro's tireless dedication in fostering mutually beneficial diplomatic ties between Nigeria and France and the impactful role he played in ensuring the success of the president's first official foreign trip to France in June this year. Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin. In a related development, former President Muhammadu Buhari joins the family of Ambassador Kayode Alaro. The government and people of Kwara State in mourning the demise of the country's ambassador to France. The former president described Ambassador Laro as an outstanding public officer who believed in a strong Nigeria-France relationship. He said the deceased diplomat left behind indelible marks on matters of governance and policy for which he will be remembered. And Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas has expressed sadness over the death of some worshippers and the collapse of parts of the Zaria Central Mosque on Friday. Speaker Abbas, who represents Zaria Federal Constituency of Kaduna State, said he received the news of the unfortunate incident with shock, while calling for a full-scale investigation with a view to forestalling future occurrences. In a condolence message by his special advisor on media and publicity, Musa Krishi, the speaker prayed for the repose of the souls of those who lost their lives and wishes the injured quick recovery. In a related development, President of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Archbishop Daniel Oko, has condoled the Muslim Ummah in Zaria on the tragic incident. You're welcome back. One important thing about micro, small and medium enterprises is that they strengthen entrepreneurship and create employment. Now, this is why entrepreneurs are all-time top on governments and policymakers' interest list. Interventions for the MSMEs subsector is among the first interventions announced by the Tinubu administration. Muplang Dakok reports on government interventions and the way forward for entrepreneurs.
Governments around the world agree that entrepreneurs play vital roles in employment and poverty reduction. But this very important group of people are often faced with various challenges which need to be addressed. Challenges faced by entrepreneurs in Nigeria include difficulties in obtaining capital and poor infrastructure, among others.
Well, entrepreneurs today in Nigeria face a couple of things. Number one, increased prices, and at the same time you couple those increased prices caused by the removal of fuel subsidy with diminishing consumer ability to spend. Secondly is multiple taxation.
Data from a survey jointly conducted by the National Bureau of Statistics and the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency, SMEDAN, shows that there are more than 39.6 million micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, in Nigeria. Given the importance of these enterprises towards entrepreneurial development, the federal government recently announced plans to energize the sector with 125 billion naira. 50 billion naira of that amount is to be disbursed as conditional grant to 1 million nano businesses between now and March 2024. The target is to give 50,000 naira each to 1,300 nano business owners.
It's going to go a long way to energize that sector. But you know, Nigerians, what we intend to do is to make sure that we do proper enumeration so that it is the right people that will get this 50,000. And when we give them this money, one, we are moving them from informality to being formal. So they will become bankable. So they can now have bank accounts because the money will not be given them in cash.
Experts have also identified the critical areas of agriculture, ICT, and vocational training as necessary to help address gaps in entrepreneurship development.
First, creativity and innovation, marketing and management. These are three key skills that are required to address the entrepreneurship gap. Government
has encouraged partnership with the private sector and stakeholders to provide the needed support for the survival of MSMEs. In Abuja, Muplang Dakok, NTA News.
For the vision of empowering entrepreneurial ventures in the country to have a foothold in the nation's economic landscape, state governments and the private sector must be ready to implement federal government's vision for the MSMEs by creating an enabling environment for them to thrive, right from the grassroots. These were the findings of Larry Bele while looking into how states and private sector can aid entrepreneurship ventures to reduce poverty.
First is the challenge of accessing funds from financial institutions to stimulate entrepreneurial ventures, since most MSMEs in the country do not have basic requirements for securing finances at the stage of conception.
When you ask them to go and bring maybe their plan, all the plan just exists in the head of the entrepreneur owning the business, and therefore that cannot be an idea that is convincing to the bank or a financial institution to have.
Despite this challenge, stakeholders say it is imperative for private sector to join hands with the government through institutions in the quest to creating thriving small, medium-scale enterprises in the country. Over the years, the federal government has intervened in promoting entrepreneurial ventures through the Small Medium-Scale Enterprise Development (SMEDAN), Bank of Industry (BOI), N-Power Program, Government Empowerment Program, Trader Money, and reduction in the amount of registration. With the prospect of injecting 125 billion naira into small medium ventures, it was suggested that state governments should start creating structures at the local government level to tap into the federal government's vision.
Now when it comes to entrepreneurship, we need to develop a well-structured plan in that way, that will be helping entrepreneurs, not only at the cities or at the state government level or at the federal government. It should be well structured the way fertilizer is structured from top to bottom.
In Lagos, Larry Bele, NTA News.
To bring in my two guests to join and bring their insight into the conversation. My guest is Monday Evans, Director Enterprise Development and Promotion, SMEDAN. You're welcome to NTA Weekend File.
Thank you so much.
I also have in the studios Collins Nwosu. He's an international trade facilitator. He's actually the trade ambassador to the International Trade Facilitation Association. Thank you so much for joining us on Weekend
File. Thank you for having me.
I have a question that I would like both of you to answer, and there have been, past efforts to address the gaps in the sector. In like 2 million SMEs collapsed between 2019 and 2021. Now the subsector is getting energized and getting the needed attention. But why does this time sound or feel different? Let me get your views. Mr. Monday.
Yeah, thank you so much. As we are aware, the new administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu has come out forcefully to prove to Nigerians that he is able to match his words with action. During the national broadcast, he ruled out a few policies that he intends to execute in favor of small businesses. Number one, making sure that he addresses fiscal issues, that he takes care of multiple taxations, and then most importantly, he also said in that speech that about 75 enterprises will be able to have access to 1 billion naira each for about 1 year at the single interest rate of 9%, and also to repay it within 60 months. And then thirdly, a whopping 125 billion was earmarked for nano enterprises, and then out of that 125 billion, 50 billion was for nano enterprises in terms of conditional grant scheme of 50,000 naira each for about 1,300 nano enterprises in the 774 local governments, and so on and so forth. Of course, just like you rightly pointed out, the number of MSMEs right now, as at 31st December 2020, is about 39.6 million. And then there was a drop by about 2 million from the figures as at 2017 because of COVID-related issues, insecurity issues, and so on and so forth. So we believe that all the actions earmarked to support this very important subsector by the president is something that is going to happen, because already technical committees are meeting to make sure that the speech of the president is taken into implementable actions, not just leaving it that way. In fact, the agency, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, is meeting with the Special Assistant to the President on Industry and Investment to talk about the details of how to identify the 1,003 per local government, how they will be electronically captured to make sure that the people that are supposed to benefit from this are the people running businesses, not people who can be gotten from anywhere. And then they are supposed to be selected the way they're supposed to be selected and given the money to run their existing businesses. And of course, it's not going to be business as usual. Though the agency, SMEDAN, has been into business of granting executing this conditional grant scheme for the past 3 years. But this one is coming from the president. It's going to be a larger outlay because we were doing 100 per local government for the past 3 years. But now it's going to be 1,300 per local government. For the 774 local government, which will involve over 1 million enterprises. So it's going to take much hard work because the agency is represented in the 36 states and FCT and even to the local government. So we're going to work with the state government, work with the local government to make sure that the real people get these grants, to make sure that it is cushioned, because all these things are done to support the small businesses in the face of the challenges faced by removal of the subsidy and other policies. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Monday, this time around it's not, nobody can play with the resolution of the federal government to make sure that small businesses grow in this country, and President Ahmed Tinubu is very, very emphatic on that, and he shows his concern. Let me bring in Mr. Collins Nwosu. 125 billion earmarked with different level of deployment. Now, how can capital and tax incentives help address gaps in the entrepreneurship development, especially in critical areas of agri, ICT, and vocational training?
Thank you for that question. It's something that is not just in your mind, it is in the mind of Nigerians, because policies have been heard of. We've heard of policies, and when it comes to implementation, the ordinary man on the street is not sure how those things happened. So we hear numbers and then we don't see the effect that come with those numbers. So what do we think would make this different? I mean, the steps that we're seeing looks like it's going to make it different, but let's look at it this way. Capital will usually flow in the direction of where it is secure, and it is wonderful that the government has decided to be one of the biggest investors, so to speak, in its people, right? But when you put that money into the system, the thing is, for every investor, you want to see an outcome. So this government wants to see an outcome of boosting the economy, which is beautiful. But other things, it doesn't work in isolation. So the infrastructure that is required is important to make it work. So where are the roads to move the goods? If someone in the village receives 50,000 naira, for instance, and is able to work on their farm, and where do they take the crops that they've aggregated to? How does it get into the cities? So we still have those gaps. We still have, there's still that insecurity gap that also needs to be dealt with. So as much as this is beautiful, there's need to look into those sectors. Another thing you would see is that because every investor wants to get their money back, they will put funds into where infrastructure is. If you look at how much we received as a nation, Q1 reports in terms of investment, foreign direct investment into the country, you would notice that banks and services received the bulk of the sum. Over 300 million going into the banks, about 200 million US dollars going into the services sector. And why services? Because there seems to be an infrastructure. If I put something in, something comes out. So we need to, as much as institutions are looking at, let them get these funds, let them get these funds, let them get these funds. We have to also look at the infrastructure that makes it work. So yes, the tax structure is not a physical infrastructure, but is very powerful. So the multiple taxation is dealt with, but we also need physical infrastructure that is to be put in place. And I also want to top it up with this. The disappearance of the institutions or these MSMEs is coupled with information gaps. So there's a huge knowledge gap that needs to be, that we need to begin to bridge, because running a business is no longer just running a business for survival. It has to be something that we're running to thrive. So there is need for training and retraining, especially when it comes to product development standards, in management of funds. You know, you don't receive, say, 50,000 naira and you think, oh, God has helped me, let me go and pay some bills. You need to invest it. So a lot of training, a lot of information, a lot of advocacy is going to have to go out. That would be like information infrastructure if this is to work. I think that needs to be looked into critically.
Indeed, the present economic difficulties and, calls for a national awakening. We'll take another break. You're welcome back. My guests are still in the studio, but let's take this report. The federal government has continued to put in place measures in the agricultural sector, all geared towards sustainability and national food security. To this end, the present administration is energizing micro and medium-scale enterprises with a view to changing the narrative for easy access to capital and tax incentives. Mohammed Umar Anjigi compiled reports on entrepreneurship development in agriculture from Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, and Jigawa states.
Commitment put in by government in providing access to important resources such as land, modern farm inputs and credit to farmers to boost food production in the country has encouraged a number of young people to venture into agricultural entrepreneurship, particularly in states like Jigawa, Kano, Kaduna and Katsina states. Zalihatu Muhammad is one of them from Kano state. She began poultry farming with 50 chickens in her backyard and now owns a farm with more than 3,000 chickens.
That doesn't stop me from going into other trainings even outside Kano, because recently I was selected and trained and given a certificate as a community animal health worker. So apart from raising these birds, if a farmer is having issue with other livestock, I have a package of knowledge again to give out or to impact on my nearby community.
Just like Zalihatu, Amina Muhammad is also an employer of labor practicing gardening to earn a living.
I have my clients and my workers, and Alhamdulillah.
The story is the same in Katsina and Jigawa states, as many farmers now engage in commercial farming.
The previous administration has started something to do with the ranching, and this administration is going to look at it critically.
Some of the latest techniques of farming, latest inputs, latest techniques, modern markets, therefore one need to be updated.
See, the staple food consumed in the northern Nigeria is maize, and we can see many new maize flour in the buckets branded.
Almost all our farmers were trained and directed towards entrepreneurship development.
This kind of effort is what stakeholders have been encouraging for food sufficiency in the country. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Anjigi, NTA News.
Thank you so much, Muhammad Anjigi, and my guest, Monday Evans, Director Enterprise Development and Promotions, Madam, is still in the studio, and Collins Umosu, he is an international trade facilitator. He's actually the trade ambassador to ITFA. Gentlemen, President Tinubu's administration has recognized the place of MSMEs as a driver to rejig and transform the economic sector. Now, how can this sector support the federal government's focus on food security, a profitable commodity export, and industrialization of the country? Let's begin with Mr. Monday.
Yes, thank you so much. Of course, at the last count, as at 31st December 2020, we had about 39 million nano, micro, small and medium enterprises contributing about 46.21% to GDP and also 6.21% to exports. Of course, these MSMEs collectively can do a lot of things for this country. Therefore, government and other stakeholders must come together deliberately, support them with inputs, support them with resources, and of course, attack all those challenges that makes it impossible for them to excel. We have talked about in the report all over the place that the basic challenge for a small business person is access to finance, affordable finance that can be used very well to run a business. But for us as the agency, we realize that finance alone cannot solve the problem. Because if you have all the finance and if you don't have the skills to manage that finance and put into the business, you might not achieve what you want to achieve and create the needed jobs. And of course, even if you have the money, have the skills, and if you don't have off-taking arrangement in terms of access to markets, be it local, national, global, or regional, you have also not achieved what you need to achieve. So all the challenges in infrastructure, multiple taxation and so on must be taken together deliberately so that the environment must be made clement for small businesses to operate. And that is why all the stakeholders must come together to address these issues. Because, if we don't address it, how can we improve the contribution of these small businesses to national growth and development? Because the public sector cannot do it right now. It's the small businesses that are packaged, positioned to create jobs for the economy. So everything must be done to give them that position to operate. Of course, the government's responsibility in the main is to create an enabling environment, make sure that infrastructure is good, power and so on. Taxes are seamless, are streamlined and regulated. And other issues that must support them to do the job they are supposed to be done must be put in place to make sure that it is done. Because we are looking at a situation where if we're able to empower these MSMEs creatively and deliberately, even if there are, for instance, 39.6 million MSMEs in Nigeria, if they are supported to create just one job each, you know the kind of jobs that will be created in the economy, and the issues of poverty, issues of lack of food for our people, issues of Boko Haram, and so on and so forth will go, because everybody will be gainfully employed and then financially independent and so on and so forth. So the need to support them meaningfully is there for us to have to achieve what we need to achieve for the economy.
Okay, Collins Onsu, you're the trade ambassador to international trade facilitation, and skill is the new education now for any country willing to develop. You know, AI is at the front frontier, and I believe you agree with me that there's a huge base, you know, of talent abound in this country and just waiting to be tapped. Let's get your views on that.
Yeah, one of the things you would notice is that there is huge capital inflow into services. I've said that, especially into ICT, and that is one thing that we can export. So I'll put it this way. There's what I term policy isolation. So policy isolation, in our definition, in our own understanding, is that things are being done to push the economy forward, to push sectors forward, but it is isolated from already existing programs. So there's the one state, one product, for instance. So if I'm going to invest in a state or release money into 774 local governments, I'll probably be looking at what is it that we talked about in terms of what we would develop in the states, the commodities would develop, the skills, the advantages that those local governments and those states have. So when we're channeling funds into building those clusters and then funneling them, just as our Director Evans rightly stated, we're funneling them in a way that they have access to market and other things that need to be dealt with. For instance, in food, agriculture, the major challenge we have when it comes to agriculture after production is post-harvest losses. On the continent, post-harvest loss accounts for more than 70% of the revenue losses that we experience. So if we're going to put funds into that and then we boost production, what happens in the cluster? So we need to deal with policy isolation. We need to look at clusters, look at the entire value chain and say we're dealing with the value chains. So as much as it's important to inject funds into the economy, as much as it's important that government becomes the first investor in its own economy, it also needs to be channeled in a way that brings up in a strategic manner that does not isolate what we've already started with. So there are a lot of lovely policies, there are a lot of lovely structures in place. Can we push them? We can, and we can. Already, as at today, I mean, the reports that we have from the International Trade Center shows about $2.2 billion shortfall in our export capacity. $2.2 billion capacity that we could actually produce and sell to the world. The world is looking for existing partners that we don't have. So for every business person, the first thing is you look for the low-hanging fruit. When we teach strategy, one of the things we call it is the minimum viable product. You start with where your hands can reach, what you can actually make impact in first off, then build the others. So I think that's what we need to look at. As the committees are meeting and they're discussing, they should be looking at what do we have, where do we have comparative advantage, where are those places where when we put the 50,000 in, when we put the 1 billion in, then it's going to give us certain returns. Where do you have an advantage in terms of maybe some form of infrastructure, or we say, hey, these guys, we're giving you this money, if you put this in place, some other some other things kick in. Some benefits like the tax benefits begin to kick in.
Okay, Mr. Collins, you have to round up now. We know. I believe it is a continuing conversation. Collins also, he's an international trade facilitator. He's actually the trade and ambassador to ITFA. And we also had in the studio Monday Evans, Director, Enterprise Development and Promotions. Madam, while we discuss federal government entrepreneurship development and poverty reduction. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We'll take a break now. Thank you, Buddy. The death has been announced of Princess Eunice Orishu Ozugo of Umo Arima Village, Eha Olumona, in Usuka local government area of Enugu State. She was aged 83. Princess Eunice was a great disciplinarian, a successful businesswoman and community leader who impacted greatly on her community and her immediate family. She is survived by 4 children, 21 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren, among them Barrister Ogochukwu Ezugo of Human Rights Radio TV. That's NTA Weekend File for this week. Thanks so much for watching. I am Jummai Yusuf.